Infrastructure projects connect some of the most powerful and least powerful groups in the world, formal and informal sectors, people from different backgrounds, classes, cultures, and languages. They require high levels of technical, financial, and human resources. To support members and clients to build the infrastructure for tomorrow, then partners need to be open and open up conversations across stakeholders and work streams, removing barriers to cooperation and integrating approaches. That involves listening to different voices, taking seriously the perspectives of people from different backgrounds so that we can really understand and address nuanced project realities. And this is especially true for understanding different perspectives on gender and infrastructure. For this reason, we are quite excited about today's panel, where we spotlight knowledge and experience on integrating gender into projects. This has been gained from people who work across their organizations and in partnerships to deliver concretely for women and vulnerable populations. We will commence the panel with an opening keynote remark from Rachel Biedermann, Senior Vice President, Americas Field Division with Conservation International. During most of her career, Rachel has focused on climate change and forests, helping to support and create networks across environmental and agricultural sectors and connecting Brazil to international policy processes. Rachel has integrated her interest in gender and women's empowerment into her programs and has championed these issues through a range of initiatives. I'm also delighted to say that Rachel has recently joined AIIB's International Advisory Panel, where she will advise the President and senior management on the bank's strategies, policies, and general operational issues. So you can see also from this move, we really want to intensify our dialogue with the international CSO community. So with this, I hand over to Rachel.
Thank you, Ludger. Thank you, Philip. It's my honor to be here with you today. It's an honor to join the panel. It's an honor to see how the bank is taking seriously climate, nature, solutions, and gender. I'll share with you a little bit of my experience. I brought just a few slides. I wanted just to share some numbers. I wonder if they can share the slides for me. But before I do so, I just wanted to emphasize how important it is that the bank is taking this so seriously in so many aspects of its work. We have learned over the years that if we bring gender solutions to the heart of the business, it makes business sense beyond other reasons. So this is why I'm so excited. I just wanted to ask, I wonder if I have, just some numbers so that we remind, this is where we are in terms of statistics. The World Bank, the WEF, OECD, ILO, to name a few, have been sharing with us some statistics. We know that women are not there yet in terms of being in leadership positions. There's gender disparity in terms of salaries. We also are not there in terms of the care work. We still belong to the part of the society that does 75% of the care work. That adds up to about $13 trillion in terms of economy. So if women were, if we put numbers to the value of care work, that would add up to $12 trillion. And the stats go on and on. For us to build the gender gap, it would take 134 years if we continue the way we are. So we need to expedite, and we need to make gender a core part of our businesses. They were also heightened by COVID-19, and there we learned a lot, how women were more impacted as men. In my organization, we bring solutions to climate finance, to nature finance. We also work with communities. We started our work in 1987 as an organization that focuses on protection and conservation of ecosystems. Today, we are an organization that embeds climate finance at the core of its work, biodiversity finance as well. And we do that by working hand in hand with communities. The reason why we do so is because communities are at the heart, are at the center of solutions for conservation, which also means solutions for climate. And they are the ones who are most vulnerable. And amongst the most vulnerable are women. In many cases, we learn that men leave protected areas to go to cities to earn a living and send money back home, and women stay in the forest, or they stay in the mangroves, or they stay in the protected areas to take care of the children. And when they are there, they become responsible for food security, for medicine, and for emotional support and care. So that's one of the learnings that I want to share with you. Conservation International has worked throughout its 35 years of existence with governments hand in hand. We are about partnering with governments. This is how we operate. We do that in Asia, we do that in Africa and South America. Conservation International was created to work with the Global South, and we have many lessons learned over the years to share with you. We also have incorporated into our people and culture gender aspects. I wanted to share this with you because I find that it's not enough for you to do gender in your projects. You have to walk the talk inside of your organization. And we have learned a lot by incorporating DEI as a major approach. We have done so by working on recruitment, making sure we are more inclusive when we hire. We have created many committees across the continents to make sure we're listening to the different groups inside the organization. We are also doing so by looking at the salary disparity. If there are any, we try to solve it. And we also are positioning women in a program called Rising Women, by which we bring the young women to the front and center of the organization and make them more visible, and they are going to be the successors and the ones who will lead the organization in the future. So we make sure they are more visible. And these are just a few of the examples. We also incorporate the gender approach in our projects. This was not how it used to be in the beginning. This became more organic recently. We understand that a conservation organization is not necessarily about gender, but over the years, we understood that women were our best partners, and we learned from their ancestral knowledges, we learned from their very practical approaches towards agriculture or towards conservation, and that has become mainstream in our organization. We also do that through the incorporation of safeguards. So we make sure that from design of projects all the way to monitoring and evaluation, we have women's voices heard and included in the decision-making. Also, those who lead projects are also women. I have examples for you from Colombia, for instance, in very dangerous places of Colombia where guerrillas are still present. We have women leading agriculture, forestry, conservation work. And they do so with a lot of competence, and we did that very intentionally. We learned that unless you put that in your targets as an organization, you don't get the results you need. I'm bringing to you some examples from the Amazon. We have now a program called the Women Amazon Fellowship, and we have now 135 women from 9 countries from the Amazon who have benefited from this program, and this is one of the ways we try to accelerate. And we learned a lot from this process of acceleration, of bringing women to decision-making spaces. The Amazon is shared by 9 countries. It's responsible for 10% of the climate solution. We are very rapidly losing the Amazon forest at a very fast speed. This year, we had the worst drought in 70 years, and this has caused a lot of problems. The drought also created problems in terms of water access and food access. So adaptation to this new reality, this new climate reality, is one that we are embedding in our programs. And some of the women from this program of the fellowship are working on adaptation. They bring the solutions to us. And some of the solutions have to do with medicinal solutions. These women get isolated when there are droughts, because the main means of transportation is through the rivers. So they cannot go to the cities to take their kids to a medical. So they need digital access to have remote medical assistance. This is one of the things we're claiming and we're hoping that multilateral development banks will look at to adapt these communities to the reality. These communities are the ones that are protecting the forest. If they were not there, we would be seeing a lot more destruction. The reason why we still have lots of protection, and today we have 50% of the Amazon protected, is because there are people who live there. We need those people living there and thriving and their livelihoods protected. And the women are the ones looking after food security. They're the ones doing the medicinal plants, and they're the ones that look after the community. So a lot we have been learning through these women. These are just some numbers from this particular program. It's a small program compared to huge programs like the ones you have in the bank. But still we see that we are connecting some women leaders between themselves in the 9 Amazonian countries. And they have been sharing a lot of knowledge on how to best do what they do, which is promote local economies. Talking about local economies, now one of the things these women are telling us, they want to be part of the bioeconomy trend. They want to be part of the supply chains from the Amazon. There are some products that are only possible there, right? Superfoods like acai, like Brazil nuts, and so on and so forth. So there are women-led cooperatives in this part of the world that want to be part of global trade. And there's a lot we need to do to get to that space, but this is another example I want to bring to you. And these are types of economies that the women do. They do art and crafts, they do fashion, food, education. But this is not enough. They want to grow into becoming high technology as well, so that they can have a bigger share of the economy. Now it's a very basic subsistence economy that takes place in that part of the world. It's important for saving the forest, but we need to think about, leapfrogging. These are just some examples. To your left, there is a lady from Tacana, from Bolivia. They do weaving. They are doing textiles using traditional knowledge, and that has help them earn a little bit more money by selling in the big cities of Bolivia, their art and craft. With that extra money, what they do is they invest in the education of their children. They basically are paying for schools, or they're paying for better health for their children. On the right-hand side, an example from Brazil, from the Baniwa, they are integrating crops, they're integrating different businesses into the regional market. So now they are not only selling to the local city market, but they are selling beyond the city market. What are food solutions in very challenging moments, because during these dry seasons, food becomes an issue. It's difficult to access. So they're becoming providers of food. And one last example from Colombia. The Bogota region is suffering from drought, have no access to water. We have been engaging with many players, multilateral banks, the GCF, on a protection of the Paramos ecosystem. Many women from this region, they are farmers, and they're helping restore this ecosystem so that more water can be produced and quality of water is guaranteed to supply water to the big capital of Colombia. And this is the last example, and I wanted to mention this one because it's about mangroves. Many women live in mangroves, which are very tough ecosystems and areas to live. They're normally very hot, very humid, and very tough to work at. But fisheries, mussels productions depend on these ecosystems, and mostly are women-led. And we are working with many cooperatives around the world. This one I'm showing you is in a very dangerous and poor place in Colombia, but we are doing that in Asia and Africa. If women can progress by leading economies, like the ones that are in the mangroves, we will have big climate solutions, because mangroves are a very big part of the solution. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Rachel. I think this has been a great introduction to the topic, and now let's move to the panel. I will introduce the speakers briefly. We have Ms. Raja Lakshmi Selvaraj. I don't know whether I got the pronunciation right, but I try. Joint General Manager at Chennai Metro Rail Limited. We are a proud financing partner across 2 projects with Chennai Metro Rail project to increase transport capacity and connectivity across Chennai. And Raja Lakshmi is an esteemed leader and expert in inclusive transportation. We thank you for your participation. Welcome. Then we have Ms. Zulfia Kamitovna Karimova. I'm not sure I got that pronunciation right either, but tried. ADB Principal Regional Cooperation Specialist for Central and West Asia. So very fitting for our panel. Zulfia is a senior international development professional with diverse work experience, having worked with multilateral organizations like ADB, IMF, World Bank, UN, but also the private sector and international NGOs. So you know all of us. Zulfia is widely recognized for her work managing complex programs in regional cooperation and integration, corporate finance and social sectors, as well as in strategic coordination and implementation. Welcome, Zulfia. And then finally, we have Philip Martin. He's a Senior Development Specialist at AIIB, Senior Social Development Specialist, and joined us as the first Senior Gender Specialist to support the design and delivery of the bank's Gender Action Plan. He previously worked on gender equality and social inclusion with the World Bank, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and Australia's Department of Foreign Affairs. Amnesty International, I shouldn't forget, and UN agencies. So you are also very versatile. Welcome, Philip. I'm very happy also to be as a moderator on this panel because that also gives me the learning opportunity that I'm looking forward to. Before we begin the discussion, let's watch a short video about the path-breaking gender inclusion work being undertaken by our client, Chennai Metro.
Suruthi dreamed of becoming a self-dependent contributor for her family. Since childhood, she was fascinated by trains. She wondered how they work. From a small town, she now lives in Chennai, India, where AIIB and Chennai Metro Rail Corporation are improving transport capacity and efficiency. Meanwhile, Gayatri was a dreamer herself.
I want to share my father's burden. I searching several apps for a job.
In the state of Tamil Nadu, we already approved 4 projects, including Chennai City Partnership Project, and the Chennai Peripheral Road Project, and the Chennai Metro Corridor 4, and Chennai Metro Balanced Corridor 5.
In this corridor, out of 23 stations, 2 stations will be completely operated by women staff, and 30% of our operational staff will be totally women, including depot operations. And many of the lady general staffs, we have given a lot of trainings which is sensitize the gender equalities and how this can be introduced in our project.
We recognize that women and men have different transportation needs. Gender-insensitive transport systems can restrict equitable access to education, economic opportunities, and health.
2 such women who were given equitable access to economic opportunities were Suruthi and Gayatri.
I'm Gayatri. I passed out diploma in ECE. I got CMRL job as a station controller. After completion of training, I'm posted as a station controller in Chennai Metro Rail.
Today, Suruthi has advanced from riding a train to driving one.
I'm working as a train operative. I'm coming from Takkolam and I'm now at Chennai. My name is Shruti, driver of the infrastructure for tomorrow, today.
Raja Lakshmi, the Chennai Metro Rail Company has always endeavored to provide the people of Chennai with a safe, efficient, and reliable travel. We know how successful the company has been. Just last month, in August, you had more than 9.5 million passengers. traveling on your metro. As we saw in the video, central to the success has been the company's attention to gender diversity and inclusion in its operations, across human resources and also in infrastructure design. Can you briefly design your company's achievements and also explain how gender and diversity became a priority for Chennai Metro?
Good morning, friends, our esteemed moderator and speakers and panelists. I like to thank this forum, giving opportunity to talk about Chennai Metro Rail in the international level. So thank you for that. And I just want to have a small introduction on our Chennai Metro Rail project. So Chennai Metro Rail project started in 2008. And the phase 1 was around 45 kilometers with including extension, which is 50 kilometers already in operation. And in phase 2, it's around 100 plus kilometers, which is funded by AIIB, ADB, and JOICA and other funding partners. And in this, more than 100 kilometers is running across the city, which we expect to solve the problem of traffic congestion in the city for the future. So in this, the question is like why, how the achievement CMRL has taken. So thanks to our leaders, so they always had the vision to consider women. Woman is not a separate identity. From the history, women are always considered very important. Even the rivers or the land is named after women. But that importance is given in this sector also. So we have, as the video says, more words. We always encouraged, the government and also the policymakers always encouraged inclusiveness and also wanted to encourage women in all walks of life, in all field. This project is, the construction project is like more of a men-oriented field where Chennai Metro Rail he took initiative in engaging women in all areas. Start from planning, design, and construction, and also in the operation. So that is how the metro, Chennai Metro, is considered as a most, it's appreciated for its innovativeness and inclusiveness, which it considered. Talking about women participation, actually, start from the planning stage, women were always involved. They know what is good and what is required for them. A place like Chennai is always, described as a not safe place for women to travel, especially in the late. So to tackle this issue, CMRL was always in coordination with other social development and women empowerment departments collaboratively, and we tried to find out what are the options and the concepts available to tackle this issue. So right from the beginning, we always had the reservation for women in transport facilities. Like in our case, one coach, out of the 4 coach train, 1 coach is dedicated for women. So which has a very safe and comfort travel for women, even in the time of peak, the peak hours and all that. And secondly, we like to address all the issues because women not always speak about any harassment in public. They always try to adjust. So we always had lots of facilities to make them come out and talk about it. So that is more important in any case. So we had, even in the design, we incorporated all the areas with 360-degree cameras, and everywhere there is no blind spots, and it is ensured that to safe visibility is ensured. There are 3 levels of monitoring system in CMRL, like one at the train where people can watch the happenings, and other thing is in the station controller always monitor the system and see what is happening anywhere. So any issue or anything they find which to be addressed immediately, the announce system is such that immediately the train and stations are announced if there is something happening. So immediately we have security personnel We have a dedicated security personnel in stations, and also we have a security from the department, which contributes to the safety of people in the transport sector. So they immediately attend to that. So the complaints or the grievance received is very, very minimal. So that is how we, from the beginning, we have been trying to achieve safety of women in trains. And we also introduced, which is not anywhere in India as much I know, there's a team called Pink Squad. It's trained marshals. They'll be moving around in trains and stations, and they'll be in normal, they just mingle in normal way with the people, and anything they find, any kind of harassment or any kind of unsafe situation, they immediately go attend and bring a safe, get the woman in a control. So these are the things we are doing it at the station level, and whatever that initiatives we are taken at different level, the policy level, as I said, reservations and any kind of gender initiatives is passed on to different departments, and immediately we also get an instruction to follow that. Initially there was no specific toilets for public, but later we learned that it is required. Even though it is just a metro where in 2-3 minutes people go from one place to another place, but still we felt there is a need. So we introduced toilets for male, female and physically challenged separately. And over a period of time we are learning. So phase 1 we had to accommodate, and in phase 2 we are incorporating at the design itself. So these are the small things. Even if you see the trains, generally the hangings will be at the top. So it's very difficult for men to hold it. So we studied those things in existing trains and buses, and we incorporated the height in such a way that women can hold it easily. Not only in the women coach, now also in other places where women can enter in at particular locations. So these are the small detailing. We start learning and we realized, okay, this has to be incorporated. So, and special seats for pregnant women and elders. And these are the small details. I'm just pinpointing. And also at the employment level, we also have a creche and other facilities for women employees. As I said, it's more of a construction is more of a woman intensive. So in design areas, the lots of women employees are engaged, even in the administrative level, because we know that women manage home and career both. So they can manage very well with this. As this movie also says, they have ambition.
Great. No, thank you very much, Raja Lakshmi. Can I ask Sophia, on behalf of ADB, you manage several projects as part of the Central Asia Regional Economic Cooperation, or CAREC, it's usually called, program, which is a partnership of 11 countries and development partners. So each of the 11 member countries share strong commitment to strengthen women's economic activity and to benefit from gender inclusion. But there is no one-size-fits-all approach, and countries need support on their own path. How does the CAREC program accommodate and support the different national gender plans, strategies, and priorities?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. First of all, I'm really happy to be here. I really appreciate being invited as such a distinguished panel. I'm originally from Uzbekistan, so this is my home country. Always good to be back, especially after living 15 years in the Philippines. So, and I would like to tell, first of all, I'm not really gender expert, gender specialist. I'm more on the regional cooperation. And the program I will be telling about, it's CAREC, as you kindly introduced. It stands for Central Asia Regional Economic Cooperation Program. So we do many sectors, transport, energy, water, health, education, you name it. But one which I would like to focus on is gender. So recently, about 4 years ago, we have adopted, under the CAREC auspices, we have adopted CAREC gender strategy, and we are now in the process of implementing the action plan, CAREC gender action plan. So basically, what we do with the countries, we have established a regional platform, which we have on the CAREC, I didn't mention, but we have 11 countries. Technically now we're working with 10 because for Afghanistan we suspended operations, but this covers the whole Central Asia region, 5 stans, plus Georgia, Azerbaijan, People's Republic of China, Mongolia, and Pakistan. So those countries, of course, they're very diverse, very different in terms of economic development, political systems, gender situation. And what we did the gender assessment to really see what is the common challenges, what are the common issues, and also their national priorities, which we can accommodate on the regional level. So based on this regional assessment, gender assessment, we prepared the gender action plan. First of all, of course, strategy was adopted, and then gender action plan, which focuses on specific activities. So I would like just to mention few. So we do, for the gender strategy, its main, let's say, focus, we have 4 overarching, or let's say, key objectives: promoting women's access to economic opportunities, contributing to women's social empowerment, supporting women's regional networks and policy reforms for empowerment, and enhancing women's access to information communication technology. Because one of the issues we have found, based on our assessment, that ICT development is still kind of far beyond what it should be in this century. So to implement this and also aligned with the national gender strategies, we have created a so-called RGG, which stands for Regional Gender Expert Group. So this comprises of the representative from all participating countries, from all CAREC countries. So this has been established, and now we have a very good tool to get constant feedback, constant consultations with the countries through those gender focals or RGG members. What's going on? What is the main concerns? What are the priorities? Because this keeps changing, as you know. My colleague was telling about safety, for example, right? Domestic violence, there are so many, or workplace harassment. So based on this, we get together, at least on an annual basis. We have done already 3 meetings so far. So we met in Istanbul in 2022, in Georgia, Tbilisi 2023, and recently Shanghai, when we had the pleasure of AIIB also participation. And these meetings are giving us continuous opportunities for dialogue. So we always see what's happening with those countries. Of course, they're very diverse, but at least we see common common challenges, we can focus on. And of course, it's being reflected in the regional strategy. So maybe I don't know about the timing, but I would like to also, can I, say about some activities or some initiatives which we do.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Not too long.
Okay, sure. Okay, first of all, in order to promote gender equality, and now we've been talking about climate, about many other aspects. So what we do, we have created online, it's called CAREC Women Empowerment Online Platform. This is, everybody can join, either as a mentor or mentee or just any interested parties. So this has been launched in April 2024, quite recently, early this year. And this is the, really provides space for, many, for policy dialogue, but also for capacity building, for trainings, also consultations with the various stakeholders. We do some thematic events. For example, the recent one I want to highlight is a guest speaker series. We talked about, and this comes from all the speakers from the region, but not only. So how to prevent workplace harassment, for example. How to tackle gender biases, sometimes unconscious. Tomorrow will be another guest series, another talk about he for she, how to get men to really support, especially decision-making, high-level men, to support gender equality efforts. I think this is all important, and this gives very good opportunity and tool, vehicle for women, not only women, men also included, to talk about these key gender issues. So we also do gender forums, and I would like to invite you also. The next one will be in Astana in November 6th. We done already last year in Tbilisi, and before that this was in Istanbul. So this is a Women Business Forum. We invite both NGOs, civil societies, but also private sector, IFIs, international financial institutions. So this is what we do. The theme, for example, I'll give you an example, last year's Inclusion, Empowerment, and Resilience for All. So this year we want to look at the gender and climate nexus. Again, women are the most affected in many ways, right? Suffering the first, even these heat waves or floods or, you name it. So these forums, and we are very much hopeful that they will be becoming key platforms for the women networks, and also bringing private sector entrepreneurs to exchange some ideas how they can support each other. So, and the last one we've been doing, and again, I would like to invite you to participate if you would be interested. In order to promote gender equality, we also introduced CAREC Gender Awards. So last year we did it in Tbilisi. This was very, interesting. We're putting spotlights on those women, prominent or, very, sometimes it might be individuals, like some farmers who made something for their local communities, or some organizations who really helping to bring those issues like domestic violence, for example, and many others into the light and bring the attention of the policymakers. So for this year, for 2024 in Astana, we also will be doing this Gender Climate Awards. And this would be focusing more on the, of course, gender aspects, gender, let's say, equality aspects, but focusing more on climate resilience, adaptation, and mitigation. So we would like to celebrate efforts of those gender advocates who already contributed a lot and made some, outstanding efforts in terms of gender equality and climate resilience in the region. Okay, thank you very much.
No, thank you. I think we have two great interventions here. One kind of at the micro level, how to do it in one project, and
ours is more regional.
How to do the coordination of such work. And now our third panelist, Philip, is going to look at the AIIB's kind of approach. So we are launching at this annual meeting our first Gender Action Plan. Philip, can you tell us more about the Gender Action Plan and how AIIB applies the lessons that we have learned from other MDBs, from our first projects in practice?
Thank you, Ludger, and thank you all for attending today, and thank you to my esteemed panelists for travelling to participate in this exchange. First, I would say the best way to familiarise ourselves with the Gender Action Plan is to read it. It's not a particularly long document, but it packs a lot in, and the scan code up there, if you take a photo, you can go to the landing site. The Gender Action Plan actually, Ludger, builds on the existing policy, strategy, operations, approaches of the bank, which have integrated gender from day one and have been consistently growing and strengthening over the 9 years. It's not a new direction or a different path. It's to operationalise the strategy, operationalise the policy, which is most clearly articulated within the ESF, which contains the vision, it contains the requirements, it contains the principles that we uphold on the promotion of gender equality and addressing women's economic empowerment. Over time, of course, we've been quite confident that our policy and strategy, as it emerges in sector strategies and others, action plans, climate action plan, are well calibrated for inclusion of gender considerations. But nonetheless, we of course have noticed that some projects are doing better than others, some projects perhaps we could have done better on. We're alert to that from our own internal assessments, our own internal monitoring, CSO stakeholders, our clients themselves. And so the objective of the Gender Action Plan is to make more systematic and consistent the bank's work on gender, the bank's support to its clients on considering gender. And it does this by defining, in highly unusual levels of detail actually for an institution, both the bank and the client responsibilities for considering gender as a material issue in decision making at all stages of the project cycle, from earliest engagement and upstream pipeline identification, through to concept development, through to early preparation, throughout the late stage preparation, through the approval process, and of course through implementation. This means that we require of ourselves and of our clients to consider gender in all due diligence. That's environmental due diligence, that's social due diligence, that's technical due diligence. And Rajalakshmi gave us some great examples of how the design elements emerge from the technical due diligence, considering gender, not just the E&S due diligence. This fundamental approach recognises that infrastructure projects are made up of dozens of assessments, often hundreds of plans, and stakeholders that include the client, financing partners, CSOs, end users. All sorts of different people need to come together to discuss. And by accommodating these discussions and structuring the framework in which they can consistently and systematically integrate gender, we are trying to address, I think, a challenge that many of our clients have long been alert to, which is historically there's been something of a bit of a bifurcated view on gender from some institutions. Something of a Venn diagram where the gender advisor or the gender team may sit over here and almost all other stakeholders for their work may sit elsewhere on different floors, in different teams. And there's been a variety of successes in this approach. Sometimes that gender team can bring their own budgets, they bring their own frameworks, they can travel separately, they can mobilise trust funds, etc. But it also actually, we've known, and the evidence suggests, noted that can increase risk of gender evaporation in projects. If that gender advisor is not well integrated into the project, if that gender advisor is not well supported and understanding of where the project's up to, we've noticed that there can be a real problem in the implementation and disbursement on gender lines, gender measures. And so for all the upfront gloss of projects that look like they're going to do a lot on gender, in implementation there can be evaporation. The AIIB Gender Action Plan is actually designed specifically to mitigate that risk, that where conversations informing decisions, they are demonstrably integrating gender throughout the project cycle. So I really welcome you to read the document and look forward to our further discussion on it.
Thank you, Philip. And you have the QR code up there if you haven't checked yet. Otherwise, I think it's also on our... it's also on here. Good. And on our website. Great. Rachel, maybe coming back to you. So we heard from your keynote speech that your organization has combined fieldwork with innovations in science, policy, and finance to ensure that the benefits that nature provides to secure the critical benefits from your work. Across the wide and deep mandate and your experience, what are some of the main challenges in transitioning from gender equality concepts to specific practical and measurable interventions in projects? How have you overcome this in CI?
Thank you, Ludger. As the example that Philip brings us, incorporating into a plan, incorporating into the practice of the bank, this is what we also try to do in our organization. It has to be stated somewhere. It has to be part of a policy or a program. It has to be intentional and very clear. The challenges are enormous. I brought you some numbers. It's about, bridging that gap that we have in the world, and every organization can do its part. But mainstreaming gender into a conservation organization as ours has its challenges. That's not our business, but we understood that just like climate change or adaptation now, gender is embedded, should be embedded in everything that we do. And there's only one way, is making it happen. And I think it starts from hiring the right leaders or the right staff that will promote that, and they have that as their daily job. So you incorporate that as part of the different activities the organization is doing. So we have done so. But also it has to do with education, with raising awareness. Not everybody is born with that approach. There are many unconscious bias, and we breaking those biases that we don't even know that we have is also important. So education of those topics is really crucial. This is one of the ways we are trying to overcome that. Being very intentional about who we hire to lead projects, programs, and different parts of the organization is also key. So the intentionality in recruiting needs to be part of what we do. When we translate that into the field work that we do, we are a field organization. We work in the deep areas of very important ecosystems to support conservation, but also to make sure these ecosystems are healthy, allow for livelihoods to be healthy, but also support climate mitigation and adaptation. So when we get to the field and we work with communities, it's a whole different game. We have to be very sensitive to the cultures. In different parts of the world, women have different roles, they have different, they are seen differently, they are differently empowered. So having that sensitivity to deeply respect the communities, not try to make the revolution and change things is one of the most important things. We learned that we need partners to do that. We are not the experts. We are about conservation, restoration, and climate. So we bring the best experts, we bring the local best experts. And it takes time. It's about staying for the long run with those communities and learning with them, through them, on how to best do things. And we have to be very respectful of men and have the space for them. We don't want to go and disrupt women-men relationships. These are, social constructs that need to be respected. So we do that very carefully. We try to bring the right approaches, and we create safe spaces for men to talk about things, for women, and then we put them together when it's needed, and very slowly. That takes time and patience. Also, we create grievance mechanisms, because when things go wrong, you need the mechanism to address and to make sure you will do the best for that community. In very practical terms, when it comes to do an agroforestry project, or we're talking about sustainable fishing in a mangrove region, we need to have the women understand what is their role and what is there for them. And they have very practical needs day to day. Women are taking care of children, they're taking care of elderly, they are preparing the food. So what we learned over the years is that we have to make it easy for them. So we offer childcare. We bring the food. We prepare the food for them to take home for the dinner so that they can stay during the day. So there are very practical issues on field work that you have to make it accessible. Otherwise, the women will not participate. And I should have mentioned this before we enter any community or we enter any space, we need to do very good, deep analysis, understand what it is about. If our intervention can cause harm, we should not do it, and so on. So analyzing before what are the gender issues should be done. And after we leave a certain project, we like to do the analysis of what went wrong and what went well, so that we can learn by doing. So these are a few tips. Thank you.
Great, Rachel. Thank you very much. I'm looking at the time, but I do want to have the second round. I would just kindly ask you to be relatively short, maybe 2 minutes only per person, so that we have a few minutes also for the audience. So on the second round, Raja Lakshmi, as a client for MDB and infrastructure provider, what key elements do you think development banks should focus on to support their clients on gender inclusion?
Thank you. So I think AIIB is doing a tremendous support in taking a gender action plan in place right from the beginning, and so everything is goes as per the plan. But what as per the question, what actually you're looking for. So we can have lots of technical assistance, because there are lots of collaboration happening within the state and national level. But having a partner in all over the country AIIB can bring in lots of technical assistance and knowledge sharing between different countries. That would really help and take CMRL to the next level.
Great. In a way, I'd like to ask the same question to Zofia. I mean, how do we make sure gender consideration emerge consistently with a practical focus and deliverables oriented?
Yes, it's a very good point. I think we should really be in the constant dialogue with all our stakeholders. And it's what we've been discussing even before that. It's a reality check. So we don't want to come up with some unrealistic plans and very, fancy action plans, indicators, or some goals, let's put it this way, right? Which are unachievable or sometimes not maybe even needed for this specific, country or region or project. So I think we really need to be conscious about the real needs. We have to do very thorough assessments, and this is where our due diligence comes in. We have to do a lot of consultations with all stakeholders, not only, from ADB, of course, we work with the governments mostly, but also the civil societies, all the key stakeholders who are involved in the specific projects, and really create something tangible, something realistic, but something which is relevant, which is needed for the key beneficiaries. So because all we do for the people, right? So if they will really benefit from this, then it makes sense. Otherwise, probably, they have a nice charts and fancy plans, it will not be working. Or even if you do it at some point, they will be not really as relevant as it could be. So from our point of view, I think it's really important to align with the national policy strategies, but also ensure that there is a very thorough process of the stakeholder consultations, the dialogue with all parties involved, and also a very realistic approach in how you implement, how you do this. So let me stop here.
Thank you very much, Zofia. Philip, what's your take?
Look, and I'll just be quick. It's interesting that we're meeting in Samarkand. We're very fortunate to, because there's actually a quite famous paper that was written on aid effectiveness and women's empowerment programs here, not here in Uzbekistan, but in the Central Asia region about 15 years ago, and it's referenced in the Gender Action Plan. And it was in particular looking at the ways in which institutional practices, the discourse and language and everyday life sort of played out over the course of several women's empowerment initiatives. And the conclusion was that several of these women's empowerment initiatives were not, in fact, benefiting very many women at all. And it goes to show, the need to transform, and this is a quote from the paper, the need to transform from transformative impulses into integrated, practical commitments. And we do that by accommodating the complexity and the contingencies of complex projects, facing reality, dealing with the very many different types of rationalities and voices, and making sure that we are course correcting, that we are checking our assumptions, and recognise in an active manner the need to learn by doing. It's not something that you have learned as an institution or as a project team, and then you just go and implement. It's every day of every project, considerations, as well as others, but where gender emerges as a way of thinking about the world, a way of engaging with our stakeholders, and a way of moving forward.
Thank you very much. Rachel, maybe to you the question a bit nuanced. I mean, what are the risks? What could go wrong in this attempt? And if you have any suggestions also how to avoid that, but I think what should we be avoiding in terms of mistakes?
Yeah, we've seen over the years that some cultural disruptions can take place if we don't respect gender the way it's valued and in the culture. So we should avoid provoking revolutions in communities, and we need to learn from their values and co-build with them and slowly see what can really make a difference for them. Recently, we have learned that in very extreme events that we're suffering now from climate, women have been key for solutions. And their perspective is being respected and valued more and more. We see, for instance, with extreme drought now taking place in the Amazon, that in many communities, women are the source of the solution in terms of food security because they have known biodiversity over the years. They are taught, from mother to daughter, and they know what are the crops that adapt to drier seasons. With the drought, they are losing their crops, and there's famine taking place. And now women are at the center of the solution when sometimes before they were not, because they know what are the crops that are adaptable. Another example is the fishing and the crop calendars have changed because of climate change. So this ancestral knowledge as well is being used to support food security. We also are very worried about water, access to water after big flooding events or drought events has become a major issue in great parts of the world. In my part of the world, again, I'll use the Amazon example. We need to urgently build the wells and to make sure they have access to drinking water because the water from the rivers is polluted or it's not there because of the drought. And things can go very badly in these extreme events. So going back to your point on, what if things go wrong, I think in the adaptation mode that we need to live in our years is finding ways to keep the structure of the societies as well as they can to avoid the big migrations, the big climate migrations that we're seeing all over the world. And I think we are still in time to do that. The Amazon is the example. The women are bringing the solutions, and I hope we will learn from these indigenous women from around the world on how to fight these extreme moments. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. And I would also like to share, two experiences I've made, here in AIIB in my engagement as corporate secretary with our directors. What I feel I'm learning from you is, that taking into account the gender dimension does not, first of all, it provides equal opportunity that goes beyond, so to speak, the project itself. If you don't have transport, you can't work. Then the success of the projects is often better because you have women involved and you take that dimension into account. Even if it only means more passengers. Your stories, I think, have given many more examples. There are two aspects I wanted to raise, and that is, I think, from the AIIB perspective, important. And it came from some client conversations I had. The first one was that, in our work, we need to avoid tick-the-box bureaucratization exercises. We are supposed to look at gender. Okay, we have our gender bureaucracy, and afterwards we report everything done. And then on the results, well, we'll see. And the second one is, and I think that speaks again also for the kind of approach of a gender action plan or whatever approach you want to take, and that is the reputational issue with our client countries, because they don't want the projects to go wrong. They don't want the stories afterwards, that the metro can't be used by women because they were forgotten in the design, or the activities that MDBs do disrupt the local communities. And then there can be two reactions. One is, okay, next time we do better. The other could be, okay, next time we don't do such projects. So in a way, us getting it is right, all of us here, and I think many of you in the room, if I look around, I've seen some of you at our CSO dialogue, and I think this is true as well. And so these are just two of the risks that that perhaps we as MDBs need to be particularly mindful, that we don't that we don't either kill the business, so to speak, and the progress. With this, I think I could open the floor to the audience. Any questions from your side? How do we do it? Do we have a microphone somewhere? Yes, great. Thank you very much.
Teresa Lin, external member of the Audit and Board Audit and Risk Committee, AIIB, and also former director of Sonta International based in Chicago. I wish to thank all the presenters on the sharing of your experiences and insights, and they are actually very useful information. One of my journey in serving the women organization is that instead of paying them or donating money just to help them or giving them the skills through empowerment, it's actually more important to upscale it and perhaps looking in how we can distribute their products so that they can be successful and sustainable. And another aspect is the difficulty of trying to help them, without all these scale, right? If they don't have scale, it's actually impossible for them to be sustained. But one of the sharing that I admired, Raja, is that how you can, I'm actually more interested into how you're able to convince the government and the community in setting up this infrastructure in which you can have a majority of the women, because it's very important that they get the jobs and they get respectable jobs so that they feel, that they are, contributing to the society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I suggest we collect, if possible. Yes?
Thank you so much. Hi, Ludger. Thanks so much for the panel, and it was really great to hear different perspective. Just picking on some of the things that was shared. First of all, congratulations for the Gender Action Plan. We really look forward to how it gets implemented. I'm Preeti Daruka from BRICS Feminist Watch. It's a Global South Feminist Alliance. My question is, as Philip said, that what was observed was inconsistency in gender commitments and gender outcomes in projects and all aspects, and hence the bank committing towards a gender action plan in terms of addressing that. It would be good to, if you could talk a little bit more in terms of that. One of the key gaps in the, for example, the energy sector strategy that we noticed, which was adopted in November 2022 by the bank, was that the bank did not have any gender indicators. And that is a hit or miss. As you have also said, that in spite of having elaborated ESF framework, gender remains an aspiration or interpretation for the clients. To Raju Lakshmi, what you shared is really phenomenal, but how your experience learning, first of all, what was the role that AIIB played in helping set up these gender standards in Chennai Metro Rail project? What was expected as a client from in the project design, in the project? And since you've had such a fantastic experience in integrating gender in the rail project, in India there are several rail projects in other cities which are funded by AIIB, but the same experience has not translated into those. So again, going back to consistency and how learning from one can be used into other. The, what was it, regional gender group that you talked about, Zulfia, we found in our research that when there is a gender action plan mandated in the project document, those projects do better in against gender indicators, but gender action plan till now, we hope with the launch of gender action plans, some of these will get mandated standards in project cycle. that the clients are expected to have a gender action plan, having grievance redressal mechanism, having certain gender standards in that sense.
Thank you very much. Your neighbor also would like to ask a question? Or?
So I'm Petra Shellwright from Recourse. I think pretty covered most of my questions, but I had another question regarding policy actually. The corporate strategy is now coming for review, and I'd be really interested to hear how you foresee this now amplified work on the gender action plan. And we're really pleased to see the gender action plan. This is something we've been calling for years. We'd really like a gender policy, so I'm hoping that this sets a trajectory for a gender policy. And just to point out as well on the environmental and social framework, there is some, decent gender language in there, but it doesn't cover all of AIIB's projects. So that's one of the issues we have, that co-finance project doesn't cover. Capital markets projects aren't covered either. So there's lots of AIIB's portfolio that actually it doesn't apply to, and that's another separate discussion why we disagree with that. But the corporate strategy obviously sets the direction, and we're at the midterm review point. It has one gender indicator, but it's internal, and that's great. I mean, we love to see more women at AIIB, and I think we have seen a few more. But we'd like to see the corporate strategy also not just talk about SDG 5, but also have some indicators towards SDG 5, because that sets that higher vision. The Gender Action Plan, as you say, it's very much towards operationalizing, towards the projects, and I think that's definitely is great, and look forward to looking at it in more detail. But setting the high vision, that's really what then the client sees first, and where the interpretation comes that it's not just an action plan that applies to some people, maybe not everyone, but actually that the organization in its whole takes gender seriously. So really interested to hear what you think about the corporate strategy and how that can be improved from a gender perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. There was one more question there, and I think then we close the questions and do a final round of answers. Please be quick.
Yes, my name is Maxim Titov. I work for Eurasian Fund for Stabilization and Development, and we invest in large-scale hydropower plants modernization in Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. During my missions to these hydropower plants, I see no female engineers, zero. Maybe environmental and social specialists, maybe accountants, that's it. It reminds me the story of South Korea. They decided to address the issue that in order to provide the opportunity for women to make a career in engineering, and this comes back to the movie about Chennai metro rail system, you need to provide access to education, and they invented the additional SDG goal to increase the number of young ladies, girls, entering technical universities. Is there any role for development institutions to help developing countries to address this issue from the very early stage? Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. I think we have a good set of questions here. You pick what?
So we're talking about how the gender action plan and what are the indicators, where are they? So our gender action plan, we incorporated those indicators to what we are going to achieve at the end of phase 2. So it's a long list, but to be precise, we want to achieve what is the percentage of women participation in the project and also at the operation level. And the quality aspects, like what kind of satisfactory level we are expecting from the women passengers. So these are some of the indicators we set right now, and we're working towards that. That we break down into smaller activities and goals, and we are trying to achieve that. So in phase 1, there was no action plan, gender action plan specific, and there was no AIIB, and there was no such insistence on gender. So in phase 2, we are very much having this in place, and we are working towards that. So definitely after phase 2 completes, we can see a significant change in the future. So that is mine.
Thank you very much. Sophia.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to pick up on this last point from Eurasian. I think this is a very important point, and this is why we're facing this gender issue, especially in the infrastructure. Education is the key. In our correct gender strategy, at least, we're putting specific emphasis on this. We're focusing on the STEM and getting more women, young girls. If you look at the statistics and the data, the university level, there are a lot of women there. But then when you go to the like production or industry level, then of course it's less and less. When you go to the management level, it's even very few left. So basically we really need to make not only education, the skills, yes, we do some green skills development, STEM education and so on, but I think what we really also need to do awareness and also decision makers to understand that it's really important to get involved women. It's half of the world's population. They're as well qualified, and maybe we have really make special efforts to bring them out, even with some, to catch up. Because I think if you look at even IT, there are so many women, right? But when you look at again, the labor force, it's less. So, So this is what really decision makers should take very seriously on the policy level. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. Maybe with you, Philip, we continue.
Questions. There's quite a bit to unpack, but we probably don't have time for comprehensive unpacking. One shouldn't underestimate the power of the instrument that is the Environmental and Social Framework, which in 2021 was updated to include an unprecedented level of attention to gender-based violence, sexual exploitation, abuse and harassment, gender and Indigenous women's issues, gender and resettlement issues. In fact, the Gender Action Plan includes an annex that goes into some substantial detailing just how thorough and comprehensive. The ESF governs the way in which projects unfold, how their feasibility and assessments are done, how the due diligence is conducted, what's expected of, what's required of the clients. And then the resulting plans are legal enforceable instruments. And it's not only a gender action plan, it's all of the plans in an infrastructure project. It's the traffic management plan, it's the biodiversity management plan, it's the resettlement plan, it's the livelihoods restoration plan. And because of the ESF's integration of gender across, where other organisations have gone in different directions and have separate gender policies to their environmental and social frameworks, and then try and mash it together later. But because we have an integrated approach, these plans, not only the Gender Action Plan, these other plans should have duly considered gender considerations in their development. That's not to say that each plan becomes a bigger, brighter, more amazing gender plan. Not every, I take your point, this is good, but we want to go further. That's a common refrain, and we get that. And so do our clients want to go further. But we don't want to destroy the equilibrium of a project by pushing too hard on every single project. We want to mitigate the risks, and we want to maximise the benefit where it's practicable.
Yeah, thanks. I know this answer cannot be satisfying everybody, so we will have more opportunity of conversation, especially with two of the questioners later. So then let me go to Rachel before we close.
Thank you. I think there's only way to build this gender gap and accelerate. And we can use climate as the inspiration. It's be intention about it. And so a suggestion for the bank, but also for the others who are here, it put women in the center. So the business should be about bringing the women businesses as the solution. And to the job creation, to the STEM, women inclusion, to the indicators point. If we're talking about women-led businesses being supported by a bank like this, in building infrastructure and sorting the climate, we will get there. So it's about putting that as the top priority. The targets, the indicators will come, they will follow. So women being the suppliers of the solutions to infrastructure, very intentionally, will generate so much energy that this example can be followed by the other MDBs, by private sector and so on. So the power in the bank's hand is so big that it can really change the course of things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have heard some very good stories, some very good concepts, some good practical approaches for the MDBs, and also I think the appeal to see kind of who is the audience, whose life do we want to improve and make that the focus of our projects. I think that those are very good lessons we've learned and very wise words. And with that, I will skip the self-praising closing remarks and just wish us all a good rest of the annual meetings and a good lunch. Thank you.